Hello, hello. This is Three Things You Need to Know. And today we're going to talk about the three things you need to know about buying a home in a competitive market. My name is Shelley Zavitz. I'm a licensed realtor in Portland, Oregon for Dwell Realty. And I'm here with Tammy Wittren of Guild Mortgage. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. So, point number one. What should somebody do about if they can afford a certain amount of house? How do they start this process, do you think?
Yeah. So this is a really good question, Shell, and I'm going to throw it back to you. So I pre-approve a client, and let's say I pre-approve a client at a $400,000 sales price. I
Mhm.
reach back out to you. The client sees our cost estimates, et cetera. We volley that back, and I say, Shelley Zavitz at Dwell Realty. Hey, these clients are pre-approved up to 400,000. What do you do?
So what I'll
Yes.
do is I will suggest that we back up the price and look at a certain amount. So say we're looking at a certain neighborhood, let's say, and I know in that neighborhood homes are selling maybe 5 to 8% above list price. Then we're going to back up our search so that we don't find, so we find something that's like actually in our price range.
AKA 5 to 10% means from 400, you're going to back it up to 350, right?
Exactly.
All right.
So point number two is, what are people writing right now? Like, you see a lot of contracts,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So what are you seeing that's competitive? What do you think's winning?
Yeah. So we're seeing a lot of folks waive appraisals or put in some sort of an appraisal gap.
What does
That
that
doesn't
mean?
mean the lender isn't going to still require the appraisal. It just means that the buyer has accepted that if there is a appraisal, we'll use in the lending industry appraised value or sales price, acquisition price, whichever is less. So in that scenario, say the appraisal comes right in spot on at sales price, no problem, we're good to go.
Mhm.
But if there is a gap and that appraisal, say, comes in 10,000 low, because remember, in the mortgage industry, realtors push value into the future, appraisers validate the value from the past closed sales.
It's so
So there
unfair.
it is so unfair, but we need a closed sale. So with that said, we're seeing an appraisal gap of somewhere, 10,000, 20,000, and then some clients are just willing to waive the appraisal completely, and regardless of what it comes in, they'll still make that transaction happen.
Got it.
So, Shelley, help me understand from your end, when someone waives a home inspection, what does that mean?
Well, you don't want to waive a home inspection. You need to check. This is a huge investment in your future. You need to check its condition. So I strongly suggest that you do not waive a home inspection. But what you can do to be a little more competitive and show the seller that you're not going to nitpick through the house is you can say something like, buyer will not ask for any single repair less than $1,000 or $5,000 or whatever, which means that you're not going to go through and give the seller this really long laundry list of, can you please fix the outlet, right?
Yeah.
Because what used to happen is buyers would get a seller under contract and then they would try and work them back on price.
So, Shell, what about rent backs? The max rent back you can ever have on a transaction is 60 days. So,
For lending,
for
unless it's
lending, yes,
cash. Yeah,
the buyer must occupy the property or take possession of that property in 60 days.
right.
So, help us understand what you're seeing there.
A lot of people will write something like, okay, well, I'm going to close. And to close means that you are going to give the money and then you get the deed, right? But
Mhm.
a rent back means that you don't get the keys. It means that the seller is going to stay there in possession and look a lot like a renter, sort of like the
Mhm.
way that paperwork looks. We take a security deposit, all those things.
Yeah.
Right now in Portland, most people are giving free rent backs as something that's attractive. I rarely see anything that
Yeah.
that
PITI
includes
covered.
pity. I mean, sometimes because that buyer can't afford it, and that's fine. You have to write your best offer and do your best. If you can't afford it, don't
Yeah.
write it, right?
Yeah.
But like you said, we can't go longer than 60 days. So I see a lot of 59 stops.
Yeah.
So if you're a seller, maybe it takes 30, 45 days to close the loan, you get your money. And then you get another 59 days after that to stay in the house, which is really good in our market because even though you've sold your house, you need to go buy something. So you need the time to be
Yeah.
able to find the house, win the house, and then have your own 30 days if you're on cash to close your own loan.
Yeah.
So we're kind of kicking the can a
Down
little,
the road. Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. So, Shelley, as an agent, let's say that you are now trading hats and you're not representing the buyer, you're representing the seller.
mhm.
Talk me through, you have, let's say you have a hot house and you have 6 offers that have come in, all on that house. What do you do to help the seller or guide the seller through that process of figuring out
Right.
who's the best offer?
Well, I think that there's a misnomer a little where it's like, it's just about price, when actually that 9 times out of 10, that's not true.
Hmm.
The seller needs certain things because they have objectives and goals that they need. They're selling their house for a reason and they need to do something else. They need to go somewhere, whatever. So uncovering what that is before we list is something that I'm really passionate about so that I get them the right offer,
Okay.
firstly. And then once we get the offers in, if there's 6, we will go through them and I make the seller sit with me and we go through them and we are apples to apples. What's the price? Bam, bam, bam. What are they doing with home inspections? What are they doing with appraisals? When are we going to close? What's the rent back? And we go through everything. And when we put them side by side so that we can see it all on one sheet, and
Yeah.
and we kind of narrow it down after that. So if for some reason maybe the home is older and somebody's given this amazing price but they haven't said anything about the home inspection, well, I might
Yeah.
suggest to my seller, well, they could work you back after this. This is a risk. I'm not saying not to take it, but this is a risk for you. And my job is just to let the seller know what could possibly happen and let them
Yeah.
make their own decision.
And
Right.
I would assume that on some homes, you know, going in that all the offers came in much higher than sales price. That maybe, let's say, you know, things have not closed and appraisal might be an issue. That would sway you a little bit. I would assume you and your seller when you're looking at stuff, correct?
Absolutely. Before I go into that appointment, I would check. And I would check the pendings too and see who might close in the time that we are under contract to
Yeah.
see if any of those might close to prove that price. But if I can't, then that appraisal waiver or injection of any kind of cash
Yeah.
is it becomes really important.
Okay,
I
Shelley,
agree.
as always, you are so awesome.
I love you too. I'll see you on the next one.
Okay, thanks, babe.
Bye.